A cowboy lives in the saddle. The road is his home, the wind his only neighbor. And when strength runs dry, simple food saves him, as tough as life itself. Frontier meals didn't care about taste, but they kept the dream alive. The voice you selected does not support this language. Please click the upper right corner to switch to another voice. The scent of iron and chili cuts through the air, stirring a primal hunger that leaves the mouth dry. Pieces of meat float in a sauce the color of rusted metal. Tender yet firm, gliding across the tongue, but demanding the strength of teeth. The bubbling of the pot blends with the crackle of the fire, the music of the frontier. Inspired by menudo, this dish was born on Texas ranches in the 1860s. When a calf was slaughtered for fresh meat, cowboys used everything nature could give. The cook, often African American or Mexican, added chili, onions, spices, and guarded the recipe like a family relic. This stew was for the strong-hearted. The struggle to keep organs fresh in prairie heat and the taboo of using scraps turned the meal into a test. They said it granted strength before a long trail ride or a fight. This food awakened contradictions, the shock of life's brutality and deep respect for life itself. It reminded everyone, on the western frontier, nothing goes to waste. Every ladle connected a cowboy to nature and the sacrifice of the animal, to the endless cycle of road and death. It was more than a meal. It was a law of the frontier. In the pre-dawn darkness, when the world still clings to night and mist blankets the prairie, a cowboy slowly lifts a tin coffee pot over the fire. Into his cup pours a drink, black as a moonless night, thick and oily. The scent of roasted beans slips through sleep and exhaustion, making the heart beat faster. Every drop is like a crack of a whip, tearing you from oblivion and dragging you back to life. This is Arbuckle coffee, the legend of the 19th century trails. The first roasted beans that could be brought anywhere, through rain, storms, and hundreds of miles. Cowboys would throw crushed eggshells into the pot to clarify the drink and tame the bitterness that long roads brought with them. But the greatest challenge was always water. Muddy streams, harsh wells, rare springs. Wherever you found water, a new day was born. Black coffee on the frontier was more than a drink. It was a ritual of awakening, a sign of comradeship by the fire. One sip could strengthen better than any words, reminding you of home where mornings begin in peace. It taught simplicity, resilience, and that the greatest journey relies on the smallest things. As long as that dark, bitter brew splashes in his cup, the cowboy is ready to ride on. Under the scorching prairie sun, where the horizon shimmers with heat, a cowboy pulls a hard cracker from his saddlebag. Flat, dry, rough. It looks like a piece of scorched earth, like the bleached bones of an old bison. There's almost no aroma, just flour, salt, and the trace of the trail. But the moment he tries to bite it, his teeth hit resistance, as if they've struck a stone. The hardtack crunches so loudly, it feels like the desert itself is cracking. This cracker came to the cowboys from the military rations of the 1840s. It was baked from the simplest ingredients: flour, water, salt. Sometimes it was so hard you could write on it with a pencil or use it instead of a horseshoe. But its simplicity was its salvation. It didn't mold, didn't crumble, and could survive hundreds of miles of travel, storms, and dust. Cowboys soaked it in coffee, broth, or even whiskey. Otherwise, they risked leaving part of their teeth inside it. Hardtack became a symbol of endurance and grit. It reminded them, only those who don't break make it to the end of the trail. For some, it was a poor man's food. For others, the taste of resilience, a conscious choice to defy the prairie. Every piece carried a lesson. To survive is to endure. In the heart of the Wild West, food was more than a meal. It was the home you carried with you, the taste of the trail, the taste of survival. In the dusty prairies beneath the setting sun, a cowboy camp came alive with the smell of stew. Pinto beans simmered slowly in a cast-iron pot over the crackling fire, while thick smoke curled into the sky like the spirits of old frontier legends. Earth-colored beans, soft inside yet firm on the outside, absorbed the flavor of chili and onions. Each spoonful brought warmth, restoring strength after a long day in the saddle. In the 1860s through the 1880s, when cowboys drove thousands of cattle from Texas to Kansas, beans were their salvation, cheap, filling, and long-lasting under the brutal frontier heat. But even here, challenges followed. Murky water, dust storms, scarce spices, and sometimes beans already spoiled by insects. Still, one rule remained. Beans are a cowboy's life. The hearty stew gathered men around the fire, feeding hope and reminding them of a home left far behind. In every ladle lay endurance, brotherhood, and the quiet whisper of the frontier. Hold on one more day, cowboy. Under a night sky scattered with stars like diamonds on black velvet, the chuck wagon cook kneads dough for sourdough biscuits. The air fills with the sharp, living aroma of the sourdough starter, kept in a clay jar like a sacred treasure, passed from one cattle drive to the next. A small but vital companion on every journey. As the biscuits bake inside a Dutch oven buried in glowing coals, a gentle sizzle blends with the distant howl of coyotes. Their crust turns from pale sand to deep honey gold, cracking pleasantly under a knife. Inside, they are soft as prairie clouds and warm as a long-forgotten embrace, with a tangy spark that reminds you bread is alive. In the 1870s, these biscuits became a symbol of home for men who had left home far behind. Chuck wagon cooks, often Irish or Scottish immigrants, brought old European traditions to the frontier. Yet the starter had to be fed and guarded. Heat, frost, and dust storms could kill it at any moment. A biscuit broken beside the fire could stir memories of a mother's hands kneading dough, of warmth and safety that once felt close. Here, in a land where everything was fleeting, this bread became a small miracle of continuity, whispering that those who cherish the simple things are the ones who survive. In the dusty heat of noon, a cowboy pulls a strip of jerky from his saddlebag, dark and wrinkled like old saddle leather. Its salty, smoky aroma mixes instantly with the dry prairie air and the scent of horse sweat, bringing to life the true flavor of the Wild West. This meat doesn't surrender easily. It's fibrous, tough, demanding strong jaws, and every attempt to tear off a piece comes with a crunch and the low growl of snapping fibers. Its color is deep mahogany, with tiny white crystals of salt sparkling in the sun like stars. Jerky is not just food, it is a symbol of survival. Along the Chisholm Trail in the 1850s era, cowboys preserved meat in the scorching heat. Thin strips were salted, smoked over mesquite wood, and protected from dust and hungry creatures. They say jerky sometimes became currency, traded in saloons, shared around campfires, and kept as a guarantee against long winters. In every bite lives resilience, freedom, and the memory of the trail, where brotherhood meant more than food. It is the taste of history that never fades. Cowboy food was more than just a meal. It was the memory of the road, the strength of freedom, the taste of hope. In every grain and every bite lived the spirit of the frontier. The Wild West hasn't vanished. It lives on as long as we remember its taste. In the scorching midday heat, when the air shimmers above the canyon rocks, a cowboy meets danger face to face. A rattlesnake coils, hissing like a boiling kettle in hell. One precise shot, and the body still rides in the dust. dancing its final, ruthless dance under the Arizona sun. The skin peels off in one swift motion, like a stocking. White meat glistens like strands of pearls in the shadow of the cliffs. The chuck wagon cook tosses it into the boiling pot. The aroma is surprisingly gentle, almost like chicken, with a wild hint of earth and mesquite smoke. A pinch of chili hides the primal fear lurking in every serving. The meat is firm, slightly crunchy, but ends tender. The broth thickens, golden brown, and hot steam embraces the camp where cowboys breathe in the scent of survival. In the 1880s, on the goodnight-loving trails, snakes became salvation when supplies ran dry. The key: remove the venom glands with one confident stroke of a knife, a skill borrowed from the vaqueros. A single mistake could cost you your life. The rattlesnake is a symbol of prairie danger, but for cowboys, it was also a reward for bravery. Fear meets a spoonful of stew and retreats. The frontier's lesson is simple: respect the wild, conquer fear, and the trail becomes yours. On the dawn hills of Montana, where fog slowly crawls between the pines, a cowboy freezes under their whisper. A fluffy shadow leaps across the branches, a squirrel's tail rising like a tiny warrior's banner. A shot tears through the morning silence, and the prey falls into a soft cradle of needles and leaves. The body still carries the warmth of the forest. With one confident swipe, the skin peels off like a glove, revealing pale, tender meat beneath. On a cast iron pan over a rising fire, the squirrel sizzles, forming a crispy crust like autumn leaves crunching under a cowboy's boots. The aroma, nutty, slightly sweet, with smoke and a salty spark, feels like the forest's secret melting on the tongue. The meat is firm yet fragile, breaking with a satisfying crunch. Dripping fat bursts into sparkles on the fire, while steam wraps the camp in a warm cloud. For a cowboy, a squirrel is a small gift from a vast forest. The lesson is simple: respect nature and take only what you need to survive. Cold pre-dawn mist lies over the prairie. Frost glimmers like silver dust dropped by the stars. It's still dark around, but a large iron pot already boils over a dim campfire, the heart of the camp, the only source of warmth and hope. The chuck wagon cook throws the calf's feet into the water, tough and full of sinew. They look far from appetizing, but the cowboys know true strength is hidden inside. Hours pass, the water boils, steam rising like a prayer. Bone marrow, cartilage, and tendons give everything to the broth. A meaty, earthy aroma, the flavor of ranches and long cattle drives. What's cooking in the pot isn't just food, it's survival itself. When the broth thickens into liquid amber, it's poured into tin bowls. The night's chill takes over. Slowly the liquid turns into a trembling crystal clear, firm, glistening in the firelight. On the spoon it trembles, as if afraid of its own taste. Then it melts in the mouth, rich, tender, nourishing. Each bite holds the strength of animals driven for thousands of miles, and the energy needed to wake up and ride again. This dish wasn't for celebration, but for recovery. The 1880s were harsh. Wounds, bruises, frostbite. Calf's foot jelly provided collagen, healing, and strength to aching joints. For cowboys, it was a reminder: nothing should be wasted. Even the least appealing can become gold if you have patience and skill. In a dust storm, where the wind howls like coyotes, a cowboy slices into salted pork, pink with white marbling, covered in coarse crystals of salt. The smoky aroma breaks through the dust and exhaustion. Fat sizzles on a hot skillet. The crust cracks, salty enough to burn. Pink-brown meat, rising steam. A sip of warmth in the chaos of the trail. Since the mid-1850s on the Shawnee and Western trails, pork traveled in heavy barrels filled with strong brine, sometimes with a secret addition, chili or whiskey. The salty meat saved lives, but thirst punished without mercy. They had to soak the pork in water for a long time, risking mold creeping in. In saloons, it was even used as payment. That's how valuable it was. For cowboys, salted pork was pure energy, a shield against exhaustion in the saddle, a taste that awakened memories of home and a distant smokehouse, brotherhood around the skillet, where every bite was a promise of support, a lesson in survival. Salt makes meat everlasting. Drink water, hold strong. Keep riding. Pork gives the strength to survive the storm. At sunset, when the prairie blazes with copper and red, the chuck wagon cook needs thick corn dough right on an old ammo crate. The aroma of freshly ground corn mixes with the smoke of bacon fat on a cast iron skillet. The cakes sizzle over the fire, a golden, crispy crust outside, soft and warm inside, melting on the tongue with a hint of sweetness. Steam warms the wind-burned faces of cowboys gathering around the campfire after a long day in the saddle. Since the 1860s on the Bozeman and Chisholm trails, corn dodgers became the golden coins of the frontier diet. Cornmeal mixed with water, salt, and bacon grease. Sometimes, a pinch of baking soda or wild sage for that true prairie soul. But moisture ruined the flour, the wind toyed with the flames, and water was a rare luxury. Even so, these cakes could replace both bread and poker sticks. For cowboys, dodgers were more than food. They were energy to stay awake under the stars, memories of homes in Alabama or Texas, of families far to the east, a circle around the fire where jokes and stories rise louder than the stubborn wind. Each hot piece reminded them, on the frontier, survival belongs to those who adapt. Eat up, drifter, dawn is coming, and another drive awaits. Winter winds howl through the canyons of Wyoming, burying trails under the snow. By the campfire, where flames fight the frost, a cook reaches for a sack of dried fruit, wrinkled apples and peaches, sun-dried on Texas ranches. A handful into a pot of melted snow. The aroma of ripe fruit, sweet-sour with a hint of smoke, awakens memories of orchards. The fruit swells, the broth turns ruby red, its texture like soft marmalade. The rising steam warms cold hands, and the taste brings summer into the winter cold. In the 1870s, 1890s, dried fruit on the chuck wagon helped cowboys avoid scurvy. Drying was a Native American craft, slices laid in the sun, sometimes glazed with molasses. A secret touch, cinnamon, or a drop of whiskey. The challenges were many. Mold, rodents, and sugar, a luxury. For cowboys, it was health and hope, a defense against despair, nostalgia for families far away, brotherhood around the pot, a lesson in preservation. What is dried can bring summer back. Hold on, this compote gives strength to reach the spring.